How's it going, college football fans? It is your boy, the Jared Sawyer, coming to you here with another edition of Cows and Quacked exclusively on 12 Ounce Sports Radio. Joined always, Mr. Tim Alcorn. Tim, show the fans some love here for Week 9, my man.
Man, I tell you what, I'm so thankful for our fans and our followers, and getting ready for another good week of football. Hey, I want to say something before we get anything. We both went 4-1 last week. I'm 47-15. You're 45-20, and I watched the pickers on game day and etc. We crushed those guys.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, it's not even close.
Well, there's how do I put this? There are people that don't watch college football that pick, and then there are people that do watch college football that pick. You and I watch a lot of college football. We understand teams, we understand trends, we understand dynamics and underlining stories and a lot of varying things, and each team has their own personality, right? And when you have a personality, you can kind of start feeling out how they're going to react in certain situations. Not always, but for the most part. And the unfortunate side about that crew on game day, which I love watching the show, is I just don't feel like they do enough of their own research. They used to, but I feel like they've kind of moved away from that. What do you think?
I think they've got fat and happy, brother.
Yeah.
And all that being said is Kirk Herbstreit has the best gig in the world.
Oh yeah, that guy's having a great time.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah. What?
Could you imagine going from town to town, having high school? I mean, college girls, want you every weekend? That'd be hard.
Yeah, he's a rock star right now. Good for her.
Yeah, he is. Absolutely.
So,
By the way, another shitty Ohio State quarterback in the pros, though, but nothing against him.
So I was at the UCLA Oregon game, went up, and it was a fun day. Absolute raucous duck section there. I actually had more fun in that duck section than I did at Autzen Stadium. Also, the atmosphere for the game was just a lot different. But UCLA fans, they were fun to watch a game with, man. There's no animosity or rivalry between the two teams, like, at all. So it's always a little bit more fun.
Isn't it amazing how in the same city the USC fans are so horrible and UCLA fans are not?
Man, it's a big difference in culture. Like, it really, really is. And I've been to games at the Coliseum, and it's a significantly different experience, And I will say this. So we jumped out down 14, and I'm sitting there just kind of stunned. I just really can't believe how bad we're playing. And then we go on a 37-3 run, and all of a sudden the Ducks are looking like the Ducks team I kind of thought they could be this year, And then we let the game come down to the final drive. It was exhausting.
When you were down 14-0, I was thinking you have little faith, man. You were pissed off.
Here's the thing: I can watch any other college football game objectively, except my own team. There's blinders when we're absolutely just destroying teams and beating the tar out of them. It's great. If we're down and it's a competitive game, it's stressful, And I kind of figured the game against UCLA was going to be a stressful game. Chip Kelly's a hell of a coach, man, and
Kelly knows your program like the back of his hand, man.
It's so difficult to play against that guy. So one of my friends was texting me during the game after we scored that last touchdown. He's like, "That's game over," and I replied, "I'm like, no, it's not." He's like, "Well, you figure we're up 17." I'm like, "We're playing on the road against Chip Kelly." I'm like, "This game is far from over." I didn't think we were going to fumble and then throw an interception in the end zone, but got to give it to UCLA, man. DTR, he's a hell of a quarterback. He really is. He was making some incredible escapes, and our defense was all over him, and he was getting out of horrible situations, picking up 4 to 8 yards on a scramble, and keeping UCLA alive. Gabbers, their backup quarterback, he's going to be pretty good. He came in on that final drive, and it's his first drive playing with the game on the line. against, the kind of defense we have, and for him to come in and take them down the field.
Your cornerback made just an incredible jump on the ball. 9 times out of 10, that's probably a completed pass, but he saw it and he came and got it.
Yeah, we have some talent. So here's the interesting thing about the Ducks, and this is a good segue into this week. Colorado's coming in to play Oregon. We're a 24-point favorite at home. Back up into the top 10 at number 7 now. I still don't know what to expect on Saturday from this team, because I've seen it go both ways. I knew we would beat Ohio State, and I knew we would beat UCLA. The way in which we did both games, I didn't know. But I knew that this team would rise to the challenge. And so it leads me to believe that if this team does get to the Pac-12 championship, they'll win. If they do get to the Rose Bowl, they'll win. If they get in the playoffs, it's a different discussion because you're talking a significantly different talent level, right? But
if you win out, you're going to win.
Yeah.
By everything I'm looking at and the puzzles that's got to fall in place, I don't see you being kept out.
You say that, but you also come from watching Texas, where if Texas has a whiff of anything, they get the nod. Oregon's not in that conversation yet. They got to win a championship or two to start getting that level of respect.
I'm not certain that Alabama doesn't get beat again. Maybe two more times. Auburn could beat them. I believe it's in Auburn this year, and Georgia could beat them, knock them out. I am not. Although I love Cincinnati, they got a tough road. I mean, they're going. SMU's not an easy game, and then at this point, it looks like and Houston is no slouch.
No, they got a tough road ahead of them, and it's interesting. Like, selfishly, I want my Ducks in there, but also if Cincy runs the table, I don't know how you can't put them in.
No. If Cincy runs the table, and I hope they do. I think it's fantastic for college football. I still believe that Oklahoma's going to stumble.
Yeah. They played a tight game against Kansas, bro. Like this team's really, really difficult. So Colorado comes into Autzen. Colorado's had some pretty competitive games this season. Again, it comes back. I don't know which Duck team's going to show up. If the Oregon team that shows up against Ohio State and showed up against UCLA shows up, Oregon's going to blow them out. If the same team that shows up again in the other games, it's going to be a long game. I'm going to say it's somewhere in the middle. I'll take first crack. I have Oregon winning this thing 31-21. I think there's going to be some grumblings in Autzen. People are going to be unhappy. I don't know what else to expect. I don't think Colorado has a chance to win this game, but it'll be closer than it should be.
I see it as Thibodeau having a couple of Heisman moments. I see them dominating. I see it 1-17.
He's good, man. He's so good. It's fun to watch. You're cutting out on me, Tim.
When he knocked UCLA's starting quarterback out, and he hit him pretty hard.
Oh, he hit him pretty hard. I got to give kudos to Thibodeau. The guy's just an animal. Really, it did not matter what was happening. He's being held on every single play, he still was that effective. Bring us into your game, my man.
Yeah, so Texas had a bye week last week, and it's Texas with the numbers. Yeah, so we have Texas. I had an off week last week. Had a bye week. They're going in to play number 16 Baylor, and number 16 Baylor's a good team. Baylor's 3 points away from being undefeated. Here's how I see it going. I'll go first. I believe that the bye week is going to help us. I believe that giving Sark 2 weeks to game plan. I think we will handle Baylor. That being said, I will not be surprised if Baylor wins the game. Baylor is better than people think they are. People are used to Baylor just being Baylor. Well, no, this is not just a high-powered offense. This is a defense that hits hard, and they got tons of speed. I have a 44-34 Texas victory, but like I said, I am not going to be surprised if Baylor wins the game.
You're gonna be mad at me, man. I
just think that the bye week got us there.
I don't disagree with that. Baylor's a hot team right now. They really are, and they're playing some really good football. I think, again, I won't be surprised if Texas wins. I'm taking Baylor because it's at Baylor. I feel like that makes a huge difference for Baylor specifically. But I would not be surprised at all if Texas wins. I'm taking Baylor for the picks because I got to catch up to you somehow. But I would not be surprised. Baylor's my head pick. Texas is my heart pick. It's kind of hard. I want to see Texas do well. I do. The inconsistencies, they're just not quite there. I really do think, though, they're on the cusp. And it's one of those teams where,
I think so too.
Like we talked about when I was driving back, the seasons between our two teams are actually really similar. It's just the breaks Oregon's had to get them to 6-1, Texas hasn't had. And as a result, they've dropped some games. And, you put them in a couple different scenarios, a little bit more time on the clock against Oklahoma, what have you, and it could be a dramatically different season. And that's the margin of error, I believe, this year in college football that's different than other years that we've seen in the past, is the competitive level from the top teams to the bottom teams in the conference. It's really small. I mean, the margin of error is really small against these teams. That's why Oregon needs to be careful against even a team that's only got one win like Colorado. And they also have to be careful of all these other teams. I mean, it's easy to get up for the big games, right? But can you do it consistently week over week? And that's the magic here. A big game in the Big Ten. Number 20, Penn State, coming in to play number 5, Ohio State. This game lost a little bit of luster based on the loss Penn State had last week.
9 overtimes.
Yeah. You were texting me about that. Was that about? I'm like, what?
Of course, they changed it. Now we're after the third overtime. Now you got to go for 2. That's what you get. You go for 2 overtimes. So it's kind of misleading a little bit,
Yeah.
You don't get it on the 20 and get to make first downs and stuff like that. I'm gonna take this one first. Yeah, and I think Penn State's good. I think Penn State's a good ball team. Ohio State's just Ohio State, and we can say what we want to about them, and not like the team, but they win, and you beat them this year, which is huge. But they just win. They own the Big Ten. They're going to win the game 34-24.
This game, I honestly think Penn State got caught looking ahead. They had Illinois last week. They weren't thinking that was going to be much of a game. Kind of figured they'd just roll their helmet out there, and Penn State or in Illinois would just go crying home. And Illinois squared up and played them tough and beat them. I can't even imagine how long the game actually lasted, but it seems like that probably would last like 5 hours. I think Penn State got caught looking ahead, but I don't think that's going to take away from their focus on Ohio State. I think Ohio State needs to be really careful in this game. Penn State's got a very good defense, and they have an offense that can put up points. That being said, Ohio State has been playing just a different level of football the last 3 weeks.
Stroud is just he's on fire.
The team's kind of starting to gel. Now they're a really scary squad because it is Ohio State. I do not anticipate Penn State winning this game, but I do believe this is a fourth quarter kind of game. And I do believe that favors Penn State in a lot of ways, but I think Stroud is the X factor. The game's going to go how he plays. If he has an off game, Penn State wins. If he has a game like he's been playing, Ohio State is gonna be fine. But in the end, I'm taking Ohio State. I think a 10-point spread on that's probably fair. I think they'll make a couple plays, get a couple stops, and put them away. Bring us into our next game here. This one's fun.
Ooh, the world's largest cocktail party, outdoor cocktail party. I believe it's in Jacksonville. It's number 1 Georgia, who, by the way, very deserving, should have every vote as the number 1 team. They're very deserving.
Are people not voting him number one?
I have no idea. I'm just saying.
Oh.
I hadn't even looked because it doesn't matter because they're unanimous to me. And they're going to play Florida and throw out the records. Throw out the records with this one. This is a fan base and tailgating like you've never seen before. And both of these crowds, both of these fans all these fans are going to be going nuts. I have this being closer than people think. And I'm almost tempted to take Florida.
Don't do it,
for the upset.
Don't
but
do
I
it.
believe that it's going to be a very, very close game. I have a 34-29 Georgia victory. I think Florida's going to score some points on Georgia. They have to have one. It's not just out of sight.
You know, Tim.
I think Mullins will be ready for them.
You know, Tim, there has been no other team that has looked as complete week over week as Georgia. I mean, really. Their defense is one of the best defenses ever in the history of the game. Their offense is to be desired on some things. It takes a little bit sometimes, but they're also going against decent teams, and it's not that these teams aren't well coached or well staffed, and it's not as if they have bad players. So, other defenses are going to key in on them, but Florida's got athletes. And
yes.
And I watched that game against Alabama, and they were right in it at the end. They played toe-to-toe with Alabama, which is not an easy thing to do.
Should beat them.
I think this game is a very sneaky game for Georgia. And I think that these players are buying into their own hype a little bit. And the only reason why I say that is I went back and watched the game last week. It looked like they didn't give up, but kind of let off the gas pedal a little bit.
It's hard not to buy in your own hype.
Especially when it's this big. I think this is the week that we really see Georgia tested. We get to finally see who this team really is, where they go into a fourth quarter. You're going to talk about fighters, right? In boxing. If you're always throwing knockouts, 10, 15 seconds into the ring, what happens when you get with a guy that can last with you for more than one round? And you find out what the fighter's made of. You go into your conditioning, you go into your skills, you go into your offensive, defensive positioning, your footwork, right? That translates into football too. If you are constantly beating teams by the second quarter and just maintaining the lead and closing the game out, what happens when you get into a game with somebody that can actually score on you?
That's what we'll find out.
I think we're going to find out, and I think we're going to find out that the Gators are going to pull the upset here. And I'm taking Florida.
I wouldn't be shocked. I'm all in on Georgia. I think Georgia's that good.
There's no reason not to be. But I am telling you right now, I have a sneaky feeling about this game. I do believe Georgia's the best team in the country, and I think even after they lose to Florida, they'll still be the best team in the country. They won't have the ranking. But I'm taking Georgia in this one, Florida in this one. And I'm taking them, and it's going to be a score of 24-20. Go Gators. Go get
I have a question for you. Bennett's been starting quarterback. What's the kid? What's his name?
JT Daniels.
JT Daniels. Now I have a sneaky because I had rumors. I think we both heard it back when he got hurt that he was done for the year, and I really don't know if he's playing. I don't know if they're just playing in games and they're just trying to say he might be ready, so they have to. They have to prepare for both quarterbacks. Bennett does not win them the national championship.
I don't think so.
Championship quarterback.
No, I don't believe that about Bennett either. And again, this game, if this was in Athens, would be a little different in my opinion. I think Florida pulls this off. But the key to Florida pulling this off is they have got to score early and score often. If they can't do that, and the defense on Georgia has the way, they're not going to come back. They have to get out in front and lead. That's the only way that you're going to beat this particular Georgia defense is you have to get out early and you have to lead early and you have to put them in positions where they have to force the issue on offense. If you don't do that, you're not beating this team. You're just not. But Florida has the speed and firepower to do it. And I honestly think they get it done this weekend. Watch, it'll end up being like 58-0 Georgia, and I'll be like, well, I guess I missed that one.
No, it's going to be a good game.
It's going to be a good game.
Bring us in the next one.
We have number 10, Ole Miss, the Lane Train, going on into number 18, Auburn. Auburn. Like,
Auburn's playing good.
who the hell are these guys? Like,
Well, last 5 weeks, they've been pretty good.
Bo Nix is playing good ball. Ever since I saw him in 2019 in person, I've kind of had a little bit of a fandom with him when he beat my Ducks in Dallas. And
he brings it all. He brings everything.
He's a good player, man. That kid is – I don't know if he's going to make it in the NFL, but at the college level, he's fun to watch.
If he don't make it, he'll probably be a good backup.
Reminds me of Baker Mayfield, in a lot of ways, like kind of a smaller white dude that can create plays out of nothing. Kind of Houdini type stuff. I'm going to take the reins on this one real quick. I put this game on the schedule because it's going to be an interesting game, but I think Ole Miss is just playing good ball right now, and I'm going to take the Lane Train to roll through Auburn, something like 38-21.
Auburn 31-27.
Taking Auburn. Oh, man.
Auburn wins this game.
War Beagle.
I'm hoping for Auburn to roll through and set up that game with Alabama with only 2 losses, and that sets up to be a good game at the end of the year. So our game of the week. Now, I looked at my bingo card for 2021, and I did not have week 9 Michigan at Michigan State to be the game of the week.
Right?
Nobody other than Michigan State or Michigan fans would have bought into that. And you know what? As ugly as Michigan was winning at the beginning of the year, that's not the case so much more anymore.
This is a rivalry game, make no doubt about it. Quick story, when I lived in Phoenix, I worked for a company called Quicken Loans. Quicken Loans started in Detroit, and they opened up an office in Scottsdale. Well, when I went to go work there, it was staffed 50-50 graduates from Ann Arbor and East Lansing. And
I tell you what, Michigan State fans are some of the greatest fans of them.
I have so many Michigan State friends. In fact, I was at the game Saturday. ABC got me on TV somehow. They zoomed in on me. I don't know how that happens. Thank God I wasn't doing anything obscene. And my phone lit up. People are like, hey, I just saw you on TV. And one of my Michigan State friends, his name's Ollie Walker. Go green, go white, Ollie.
Go green, go white.
The last bet we had was on the Red Box Bowl a couple years back when it was a 7-6 Duck win. It was one of the most horrible games I've ever seen. And we both vowed never to talk about it again. So he texts me during the game. He's like, well, I guess if we take care of business, you guys take care of business. We might meet you in the Rose Bowl, or we might meet you in the playoffs. And he goes, who knows? It might be a better game than the Red Box Bowl. I'm like, Ollie, you're never supposed to talk about that game again. We banter back and forth, but I have a ton of respect for Michigan State, especially this year. They really did come out of left field. They were 0-7 last year. they didn't really get it together last year. Their toughest game so far this year was against Nebraska, and
their running back is a stud All-American. This kid is exceptional.
They're not giving up very many points on defense. They're a stout team. They're how do I put this? They're a team that if you're not clicking, they will identify what's going on wrong in your offense and exploit it. And if you're getting mismatches on defense with them, you're going to have a very, very difficult game. Now, they're not going to come out and score 70 points on you. They're not going to do that. But they don't have to do that to beat you. Michigan, though, is kind of looking like the Harbaugh Michigan we always thought they would be. And the Michigan we've been waiting to see since Harbaugh got there. And I mean, they've been just taking care of business, man. I mean, and they're playing all the similar opponents. And quick side note, Nebraska's fans, you guys need to give Frost another year. He is right there with these teams, just not able to complete the wins. he will get you guys there. Side note,
He will.
You start looking at Nebraska and everything they're doing. I mean, they're trending in the right direction. Might not get the win-loss total you want this year, but hang on to him. He's gonna turn a corner here really soon. Anyway, back to this game. Tim, what's the biggest difference in this?
Probably home field. And I tell you what, I up until this second, I didn't know who I was going to pick in the game. I had no idea. And I believe that Michigan pulls out a nail-biting slobber knocker. I believe it's a hard-fought trench battle, and I believe they win it 23-20. It's a tough one, man. It's a tough game. Yeah. I have no idea. Michigan State could beat them by 10, but I have no, this is one of those games that I'm just flipping a coin, man.
I get it completely. This is a very difficult game to call because there's so many different factors that go into this. At the end of the day, I truly believe that Michigan State's defense is going to be the major factor in this game. Okay, and this is going to end up being one of those scenarios where this is going to be a boring Big Ten game. And I'm just going to call it right now. The SEC, the Pac-12, the Big 12 are fun conferences to watch. But for whatever reason, the ACC and the Big Ten just put you to sleep week after week. Like, if you need a good nap, go turn on, a Big Ten game where Indiana's playing Illinois, and you can take a good solid snooze through a game like that, not really miss anything for an hour, and then, wake up and tune in. You do that in these other conferences, and you're going to miss 25 points scored. So,
yeah, Pac-12 after dark never disappoints.
Oh, I can't stand that. Anyway, okay. So I'm going green, go white. I'm taking Michigan State at home 24-17 in this game. I think their defense is enough to slow Michigan down, and they score a late touchdown. This game, if you're going to watch any part of this game, tune into the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. Because in the history of this rivalry, crazy shit happens.
Yeah, remember when they were going to win, drop the punt, Michigan?
Oh my God, that stands out exactly in my head. That end to that game, one of the most wild situations I've ever seen. I mean, just really for everything.
Yeah. And then all the guy had to do is fall on it and they win. He don't.
You try to pick it up. You never try to pick. Never try to pick.
The game's over. There was no time left on the clock.
Don't ever try to pick it up. Just fall on the damn ball.
As a matter of fact, you should have just had him run around.
Yeah.
But you can't do anything about that now.
So we got Husky Hate Week next week. We're going to invite Sam Finley come back on the show.
Can't wait to listen to Sam talk.
To keep our tradition alive. We have Auburn playing A&M. You guys play up in Ames, right? You guys are taking on Iowa State.
Yeah.
This season, I still can't figure this year out, man. We all know Georgia's good, but beyond that, like who's your top four? Who do you like if you were to start the playoffs today and you're the committee, so next week's when they're going to pick, right? It's going to be the first week that comes out. Assuming some of these games hold, who's your top four? Who do you put in the playoffs?
If I had to pick now, I would pick Georgia. I would pick Cincinnati. I would pick
Gets tough, right? It gets really tough.
Trying to think who my third team is. I would Ohio State, and I just would leave Oklahoma out. I take Alabama.
Take Alabama.
Alabama is just Alabama. Let's just call it like it is.
I would take Georgia. Yes. I would take Cincy. I would take Ohio State, and I would take Oregon. Now, obviously, I'm biased a little bit there.
Well, and all you got to do is win out and you're in.
Yeah,
win out and you're in. It's all going to shake itself out. There's only going to be two teams that are undefeated.
I truly believe that last week was a big deal for Oregon. No one picked them. Very similar to the Ohio State game, right? And it's a lot different in week 2 than it is week 8. So
we picked them.
Well, yes, we did, Tim, but see, that's just it. We typically pick these games because we understand these teams,
Right.
and we're not just getting paid $100K a year to sit around with our thumb up our ass and show up to college game day. So,
I would do that.
next week, man, next week's going to be fun, but I cannot believe next week is week 10.
Crazy.
I mean,
want to put an upset alert possibly this week, and SMU's a good team, but if it's on, I'm sure it'll be on ESPN, ESPN2. Catch that Houston SMU game. It's going to be a good game.
SMU Houston, yeah.
SMU's up to number 16, and deservedly so.
Another game I want people to pay attention to, and I think that this game is, well, it's a game it's not on anyone's radar because, quite frankly, these teams don't get any notoriety because they play in the Mountain West and they play out west and they play all their games past 7:00 here and play, they're finishing up at 2:00 in the morning back east. But Fresno State at undefeated San Diego State. San Diego State's playing in LA this year because they have a new stadium being built here in San Diego. San Diego's done nothing but just win all year.
Yeah, they have.
And they're barely scratching. I mean, they're not ranked number 21, but I mean, they beat Utah. They beat Arizona. Mean, they're winning their games. Brady Hoke's the coach there.
My high school could beat Arizona.
Arizona's bad this year, man.
I think
I'm looking
13 or 16 games in a row.
Yeah, I'm looking 18. I think there are 18 games they've
18,
lost.
okay,
Yeah,
wow.
it's bad. I'm looking at these games. So Fresno State's really the only challenge that's ultimately laying ahead for San Diego State, and then they play Hawaii. They'll beat Hawaii. Nevada.
Is it in Hawaii? Is it Hawaii in Hawaii or
It is in Hawaii.
Okay.
What a tough schedule, right? You live in San Diego,
Yeah.
play football in San Diego,
Yeah.
and then your away games in Hawaii. Yeah, it's really tough. The only remaining hard game outside of this weekend is against Boise State. Should San Diego
Boise State's 3-4. Yeah.
should it's always a tough place to play though, dude. Should San Diego State be considered for a New Year's Six bowl? I mean, they're
Yes.
running the table. I mean,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. And of course, it just depends on because Cincinnati's probably getting the playoffs, so their New Year's Six is not going to count. I think that if SMU stumbles and they win out, absolutely.
Well, and see, here's where this creates the debate. Here's the ultimate debate: is when they wrote this schedule 6 years ago. Okay, playing Arizona at Arizona seemed like a tough game. Yeah, they didn't know all the stuff that was going to happen. Playing Utah, was a tough game. I mean, they won that game by 2 points. They still won though.
Right, absolutely.
And you start looking at some of these schedules, and these guys are trying to put together schedules that will get them the nod. I personally feel like if San Diego State is undefeated, they absolutely deserve a nod for a New Year's Six
Absolutely.
bowl.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And again, I didn't put that on our watch this week, but it is a game. I think people, if you got some time,
Fresno State's a pretty good team.
they're really good, man.
I think they're 6-1.
They're playing
right?
they're playing good football. Let me check their schedule because they're 6-2. They lost to
6-2,
us
okay.
and they lost to Hawaii. Wow, I didn't even realize they lost to Hawaii.
That's why I asked if it was in Hawaii. So that's a scary game anytime you go to Hawaii.
Those Rainbow Warriors, man, they'll get you.
Sometimes these kids get in Hawaii and they're starstruck with looking around and looking at the bikinis, and they're not playing a football game, man.
Gotta love Hawaii. Well, we'll be back next week. We're gonna go through more of the gamut of college football. We're gonna start doing a little bit more stuff as far as it's gearing towards playoff time. Now things start getting really serious. We're in the second half of the season. This thing's wide open, man. It's wide open.
Yeah, it is. It's wide open.
It's absolutely incredible. But until next week, adios.
Amigos.